Hi, everyone, and welcome. Welcome back to me. I hope you're really enjoying the sessions so far. We've had some great sessions from Ontario Screens and Metrolinx, and we've got some amazing activity going on the platform and networking. So we really hope you're enjoying the event. We are missing a couple of our panelists as of right now. I think they're having some technical difficulties getting on, but I am joined by Jose Cabral, Academic Advisor of Ted Rogers School, and Andrew Deacon, who's the Director of Talent Acquisition from Clio. So really want to thank them first and foremost for being here. I know, taking time out of your day isn't always very easy, but we're very happy that you did that to be here with us today. I know a lot of people are very much looking forward to the panel. So thanks so much for being here, both of you. Oh, we've got Margarita joining us here. So I'm just going to let her in. All right. She might come on in a second. I don't know where she went. So we'll start. Oh, there she is. Hi, Margarita. How are you?
Hi, good. Thanks. How are you?
Good. You're perfect timing. We were just doing introductions. So
sorry about that.
No worries. So Margarita Casanova, who's the talent acquisition, technical roles for General Motors. So thanks so much for being here. What a great panel. We're going to have some awesome discussion about, as recruiters, what you look for. I know, Jose, you've got a lot of experience in advising on job search, with your Ted Rogers experience. So I guess let's start with introducing yourselves and kind of your background and maybe talk a little bit about your organization. And then we'll really get into information about your recruiting process, maybe some of the jobs you're looking to fill. So Andrew, why don't we start with you? Maybe you can give us a little background of your experience and talk a little bit about Clio.
Sure. I'll try to make this relatively quick, but my name is Andrew. I've been in recruitment for about 10 years now, about a decade. Mostly supporting small to mid-sized to growing technology companies. So I spent some time at an agency, but then worked for Uber, as well as now Clio, leading talent acquisition teams. So we're kind of hiring across the board. I've worked on, or my team's worked on everything from software engineering to sales to marketing, support, everything in between. So yeah, mostly just high growth, medium-sized companies that are hiring quite a bit.
Amazing. And Jose, maybe you can introduce yourself and your background as well.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jose Cabral. I'm currently a student advisor with the Ted Rogers School of Management, part of Ryerson University. Prior to this role, I was in Career Center at the business school, so helping students connect with jobs. And I'm actually an alumni from George Brown Career Work Counseling, so I'm a certified career development practitioner. And I've been helping not just students, but newcomers connect to jobs and go through the job search as well. And currently, I'm pursuing my master's at U of T in HR and industrial relations. So I'm very passionate about the HR positions and jobs, but I'm very happy to be here sharing with the students or any newcomer, any job seeker for that matter.
Amazing. Thanks so much. Yes, thanks so much for being here. And Kadeen?
Yeah,
that's so much for being here. We're glad you made it.
I was sitting there waiting. I was even chatting and networking for a little bit with some people, and I'm like, can't get into the live room. So I'm like,
oh no. Well, I'm glad you made it in. So we were just doing some brief intros. So maybe you can talk a little bit about your background and your organization.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Kadeen Cooper, not you. I'm an ex-corporate HR professional. So I got agency and I've got corporate experience. Specialized in the talent acquisition space for about 16 years, and just over a year and a bit ago, I started my own career transition coaching business that I'm loving. So yeah, just happy to be here and super engaged to connect with anybody. I'm just, wanting to share my knowledge and my information and insights that I have. So
that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and thanks for being here. And Margarita, we'll end our intros with you. So a little bit about your background and your organization.
Yes, of course. So I started working in tech recruitment over 6 years ago, and since then I've worked for a number of organizations. I'm currently with GM, focusing on senior engineering recruitment, including managerial roles. So the tech stack is generally focused on automotive engineering.
Awesome. Perfect. So thank you so much to all of you for your time again. If anyone has any questions, we are going to take them throughout the duration of the next 20 minutes or so. So if you want to put them in the chat, we'd all be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. So I kind of want to start today off, talking a little bit about COVID and how it's affected your organization. I know it's a very talked about subject right now, but I think it's something that people need to hear, and how people have pivoted, and maybe we can turn it into a positive in terms of, how it's improved your recruitment processes or the way you're hiring. But maybe we could start with that. So Andrew, do you want to kind of touch base on maybe, how Clio's been affected by COVID? Has it changed your recruitment process at all? Things that you've done to pivot within your organization?
I think, there's been a few changes we've definitely had to make. I mean, the obvious one being we can't have in-person interviews. I think that's probably table stakes at this point, but really prompted us to, being a high growth company, we're kind of, had to look pretty hard at a headcount plan and figure out, okay, what do we actually need to hire here, and what can wait, because, with the uncertainty, you don't know exactly how the revenue is going to continue, and projections, stuff like that kind of get thrown askew a little bit. So I think, roles become really, or headcount plans, a lot of places are tightening up a little bit, right? So, but I think that's starting to slowly turn around as well as we kind of, get through this all. But I think in terms of our interview process, we really had to look hard at how can we make sure we're giving people an optimal, remote experience, and, making sure that, what you get in person, some of that personal connection, stuff like that's still there. So we kind of, rejigged a lot of kind of how we think about, setting up an interview or setting the table for it in the first 5 minutes, and really trying to enhance a bit the personal connection side, since you kind of lose a bit of that often in our Zoom. It becomes very transactional, becomes very right to the point, all business, right? Where when you're in person, you sometimes give them an office tour and things like that. So trying to bring elements of that into what we do, and really just working with our hiring managers and interviewers to try to bring that in-person experience virtual. So yeah, that's kind of a small portion, but one of the things we felt was important.
That's great. And I know, Margarita, you're in kind of a similar situation where you're on the technical side of things. So how have things changed for you since, I guess, last March?
Yeah, for sure. So last March, I was actually with RBC Ventures, and I was on site for about a month, and then we were all kind of shipped off to work from home. And I'll speak of that. So everything, of course, became virtual, and we had to make sure that we account to our head count and understand which roles are more critical than others. And it was a very kind of unknown time because that was my experience in terms of working during the pandemic for the very first time, and definitely a big change since I've met many of my colleagues in person. And now with GM, I started fully remote, and I met everyone virtually, and I think it's kind of a new reality that we're all starting to adapt to. And it's definitely interesting because you figure out ways of how to best connect with people without meeting them in person, and to understand their needs and whatnot. And GM has been overall growing a lot. There is a lot happening in terms of rebranding, focus on electrical vehicles. So a lot of hiring happening and taking place. So far, the experience has been positive in terms of continuous growth and kind of improvement and whatnot.
That's great. And maybe just as a follow-up, maybe you could give your top kind of 2 tips on when you're conducting a virtual interview, what you're looking for from candidates.
Yeah, for sure. So I know it's a big ask, but try to make sure that there's as little distraction as possible. And I know we're all kind of dealing with a lot, but maybe try to do your best. And another thing is be prepared for an interview, do your research ahead of time, and make sure that when speaking with the recruiter or the hiring manager, they understand why it is that you're looking for this role and why you're interested and what kind of value you can bring to the company and to this team.
Amazing. And Kadeen, I guess we could go to you. You're more in a position to give people advice on, really how they can connect with recruiters or make their resume, speak, outstanding, stand out amongst the competition. So what's some advice that you would give on virtual interviews?
So just to add to what Margarita said, I think a lot of it for me has been coaching individuals on how do they show up? How do they present themselves? So knowing your branding message. So sometimes you only have that 3 to 6 seconds to really say who you are, what you do, and how you do it. So having that down pat, having it concise, and exactly that, knowing what your value proposition is, I think speaks volumes, and doing your research. So I just echo a lot of what Margarita said. The only other thing that I would probably add is dressing the part. So not because you're at home, do you want to wear your pajamas to a video interview or look kind of sloppy or like home and having your foot up while you're talking to me. And the distractions are huge. And lighting. Make sure that you're in a well-lit place with little distraction and that you're speaking directly to the camera. Like right now, I would love to be looking at all your lovely faces, but I'm actually looking at the camera so that you can tell that I'm looking at you. So I think that's good, and no distractions behind you either. I'm still interviewing and recruiting for some clients, so interviewing and seeing a lot of distractions behind them, like sheets hung up, I guess, is like a backdrop. So those are distracting to the recruiter, the hiring manager as well. So just making sure that your space is clear, that it's well lit, and that there's no clutter and distraction around you, I would say.
Amazing. And yeah, I gave some advice earlier with the camera thing, because it was really hard for me to get that down pat when I first started doing this. So I have a little bright pink Post-it note beside my camera, so it makes my eyes, because I always do the same thing. I want to look at the person's, little square rather than looking at the camera. So, so Jose, let's talk a little bit. We were on with Andrew, before we went live, and we were talking about cover letters. So I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, but I think this information is, super valuable. So we're talking a little bit about cover letters, and Andrew gave his insight, and maybe you can give it again, once Jose answers. But if someone's composing a cover letter, what are the main components that they should have on that cover letter?
That's a great question. So first of all, I think cover letter should not repeat everything that is on the resume. So it's not the same type of information that you have in the resume. A lot of times people confuse, like, oh, what should I put on the resume? What should I put in a cover letter? A cover letter, first of all, it's a personal statement. You're talking about yourself and how you connect with the organization that you're applying for. So you have an opportunity to talk about your interests, why you're interested. Like Margarita mentioned before in an interview, why do you want to do the job? So you can talk about things that are not necessarily on the resume, such as your interests, your values. How do you connect with the organization? Why do you want to join them? So things that you can address in a cover letter. Of course, you can talk about your achievements that will endorse your interests, why you want to join that organization, but you have an opportunity to talk about yourself from a different perspective than the achievements and the tasks and things that you have performed before, which are usually the skills that you add to your resume.
Perfect. And Andrew, how important are cover letters to you when people are applying to your open positions?
Yeah, I think when you're thinking about an application, like everything is a data point that people are gonna have an input into whether they hire you or not, right? And cover letters are the same thing. If we're going through a job that has 300 applications, the resume is going to be the first filter, right? We're not going to read every single cover letter if you just don't fit the job at all, right? But like, let's say you get an interview and you move through the steps, like everything you use at that application point travels with you throughout those interview steps. So often, whether it might not be the first gate, like you might be in a final interview where the hiring manager, the person who has the ultimate say, is going to read everything that you put together, including that cover letter. So it definitely can be really supplemental to an application and important. And I think, Jose addressed really well. You don't want to go for the generic, just kind of repeat, spit out what's on your resume. You don't want to go for a cover letter that's basically just taking out a company name and plugging in whatever one you're applying to. Like, it should be connecting to the organization, showing that you've done your homework, showing that, you'd have passion coming into an organization with X values or whatever it is. So I think it's an important one, especially as you get deeper and as people kind of make those decisions between you and one other person or something like that. Every little bit helps, and a cover letter could be an important data point for sure.
Amazing. And we were talking about, some employers really, a cover letter is a must, and for some employers, a cover letter is kind of a nice to have. What's your thought on that? Like, is a cover letter a must? Is it something that you look at before you look at the resume? I know we can't speak for all recruiters out there, but you've worked for several larger organizations. So what's your kind of take on that?
Yeah, it's a tough one because it's not really, to me, a one size fits all, right? It's like for example, I don't think it's ever a must necessarily. I think like it's always like a good to have and can help give you an extra nudge in the right direction in an interview. I and I do recommend people do it. And I think, but I think that at the end of the day, it's like the resume is probably going to get you like the foot in the door first, and then that cover letter can help push you over the top to get that first interview or to get that kind of push the next step. But I do think it's for, and a lot of organizations approach differently. Big ones that might get like a ton of inbound resumes might, kind of have different filtering mechanisms. But I think it can never hurt you as long as you write a well-crafted cover letter. And especially those jobs where you might be like, have like 80% of the qualifications and missing 20%, like that cover letter when they're like on the fence whether to talk to you, to invest the time in interviewing, like that can really help push you over the top. But you can address some of those gaps or address why you're pivoting from one role to another, or kind of answering some of those concerns that they might have. That's when I think it can be big. So it's situational, I guess, but I think it can never really hurt if you're putting in a good cover letter as well.
Perfect. That's amazing. So Kadeen, maybe we can chat with you a little bit about, we've got the cover letter addressed. What are kind of if you had to choose your top 3 things when you're kind of coaching someone or giving advice on what they should include in their resume, what are the top 3 things would be your must-have or your top advice that you would give to someone when they're writing their resume?
So the first thing that I would say is to leverage key and action verbs that are related to your industry. And some people say objective summary, professional summary, but make sure that summary kind of clearly defines and indicates who you are as a professional. So that's what's going to grab the recruiter's attention and make them continue to want to scroll further down. So once you've captured them there, then you can kind of scroll down and figure out, okay, do they have the years of experience? Do they have the industry experience that I have? But I think that would be the number one, would be making sure that there's a clear and concise objective or summary statement. The second thing is to do a spell check and make sure that there's no spelling errors on your resume, and have a second set of eyes look at your resume. So I always say that candidates should have 3 versions of your resume. One that has everything and anything under the sun that you've done from the time that you started your professional career to present day. The second resume is the resume that's more applicant tracking friendly. So that's the one that's got all the key and action and buzzwords on it, but not saturated, that you've kind of concisely and articulatedly put them strategically on your resume in the right area. And then the third resume is one that's more cosmetically friendly. So if I was to speak to a candidate and say, okay, Michelle, send your resume to Rachel. Rachel's expecting your resume. That's the resume that they would put and send to you. But the resume that is going through these systems nowadays is the one that's super, it's like a white canvas. Think of it as a white canvas, and make sure that you've got the key action and buzzwords on there that are speaking to your skill sets, your abilities, and your accomplishments. Like, we want to see, what is it that you've done in your career? So that's why the kind of brain dump resume is good, because from that you can then cherry pick and make a resume that's specific to the job that you're applying for.
Amazing. Thanks so much for that. Just as a reminder, if anyone has any questions, we will take them. If you want to put them in the chat, we'd be happy to answer them. So Margarita, going off of the resume and the advice that was just given, from a recruiter's perspective, what are the top 3 things you're looking for on a candidate's resume?
So first of all, I absolutely agree with Kadeen there. And the top 3, I would say, given tech is so siloed, of course, the technical skills and making sure that they are relevant. I do like to see proper grammar on the resume. It just speaks to me what the candidate is about and how accurate and detail oriented they will be in their job. And the third, I would say, neatness and format. I've seen so many resumes where the fonts are different and it just doesn't make sense, or there's some stuff missing clearly, so it just looks like it's been copy pasted from somewhere else. So I'd say those 3 things that kind of come to my attention before everything else.
Okay, perfect. And we have a question here, Jose, so I'm going to direct it to you if that's okay. So as a job seeker, I'm wanting to apply to as many jobs as possible. When it comes to cover letters, how is it possible to write a cover letter catered to each position I'm applying for?
Yeah, I know it's tempting to use the same cover letter, like Andrew mentioned, just replace, perhaps cut and paste the employer number, the organization. I would caution you that it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So if you do take the time to have quality applications, meaning that you do your research, you understand what the organization is looking for, and you address those business needs, because it's one of the things that job seekers, they usually don't do. They just use the same resume and they apply everywhere. and they're going to get frustrated because they don't get the calls back for interviews, right? And the reason is that it's not connecting with the person reading the resume on the other hand or the cover letter. So take your time to really understand what the business need is behind the job posting. And when you write your documents, make sure that you are addressing those things and keep the person on the other hand in mind when you're writing those documents. Because when they read, they will see, oh, okay, this person understands what I'm looking for. And they will be more prone to give you a call to invite you for an interview, right? So I know it's tempting to use the same resume and apply everywhere. Usually what happens is that the job seekers will get frustrated because they don't get the same amount of calls for the same amount of applications they submitted. So I believe that it's about quantity, it's not about quality. So if you do take the time to write your cover letter in your resume, the chances of you getting a call back for an interview will be much higher.
That's great. And we have a couple other questions here. So Andrew, just because we're on the cover letter, what catches your attention in a cover letter and how to grab someone's attention in a cover letter or a resume?
Yeah, I think specific to cover letter, I think just, demonstrating that you've kind of researched the role, researched the company goes a long way. Because 9 out of 10 of those cover letters are the generic one that I get are the generic ones that are just kind of, spitting out their resume again, or really kind of high level, where the ones that are like, here's, why I'm applying to this one. Here's why I feel, I'd bring a lot to the job. Here's why I connect with the organization. Like those things I think can really stand out from the pack a little bit. I think, and also just make it kind of concise and to the point too. No one really wants to read like a 2-page cover letter. So, that's another small tip, I guess, but I think just like concise to the point, tied it directly to the organization's mission, value, or the job itself. Those are the things that I think stand out above kind of the sea of, a little more templated ones we often get as well.
Right. And I would suggest, just as a, being in the industry for quite some time, is saving each version of your cover letter with the company name on it. Because a lot of times, I don't think it's on purpose, but someone might send an old cover letter that they sent to someone else, and I'm getting a cover letter that has a job that they're not even applying for. So just to stay organized, I might, create a folder that has, these are all my cover letters, and these are the ones, maybe somehow name them so that which one's going to which company, just so that you're not sending the wrong one, because I've seen that happen many times before. So I think
doing that as well, like to Jose's point, it helps when you're like trying to create a lot of cover letters for a lot of different jobs. Then you always have like a number of different templates, and not saying you're just kind of changing a few words, but then you can take one, insert slightly different info or whatever it may be, but just having that bank, I think, helps you kind of get through that volume sometimes and still be somewhat original and direct with your letter.
Right. Absolutely. So Kadeen, I'm going to address this one to you. So is the master resume not playing the same role as a complete LinkedIn profile?
That's a good question. I see them as different though, because you don't want to put everything and anything under the sun on your LinkedIn profile either. You want it to be specific and targeted to the industry or the roles that you're seeking, whereas the mass resume is everything, right? So there are certain things that you wouldn't want to put necessarily on your LinkedIn profile that are going to speak to you when you were in retail, for example. I have a 22-year-old and he's currently, just finished his marketing degree and he's only got retail experience. So I'm like, let's strategically put brand manager, right, on some of his, because that's who he was or what he was. So it's being strategic with some of the wording as well. And just to add another tip that I thought of for resumes is, because I heard Andrew mention it, we don't want to see a novel. We don't have time to read in the novel. So if you can keep your resume to 2 pages max, and that's why I think the master is so critical, because that's where you can do your massive brain dump, right? But we only want to see the key points that are suitable to the role that we're actually considering your candidacy for. So 2 pages is good.
Awesome. Marguerite, I'm going to switch gears a little bit from advice to jobs. So maybe you can touch base a little bit on some of the roles that you're recruiting for at GM.
Yes, of course. One of them is a senior engineering lead with a DevOps background. Another one is a senior software engineering lead for our software development team for autonomous driving and safety. And then another one is also a senior managerial role for the systems engineering team. In addition to that, I have simulation software development positions that are hot, and there are a few of them at intermediate and senior levels. In addition to that, QA, and that would pretty much be it.
Amazing. And perhaps maybe you could put a link in the chat to your careers page, or where people can find more information for the positions that you're hiring for. That would be great. So Andrew, I'm just going to go back to you just for a quick second. So someone's asking if you would recommend to directly call the manager of the position to stand out from other job seekers. So let's say you have a position that's listed online, someone types in, HR director of Clio, they find you. How do you feel about people reaching out to you directly?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think it's like some people might respond well to that, and other people might be really put off by that. So it's a tough one. I've seen like some people have done that, to me, and like, I admire the kind of, trying to stand out from the pack. Sometimes it can be pretty disruptive, and that. What I will say, if you're going for like a customer facing kind of role, like in a sales job, like let's say a cold calling position, or like, even maybe support. I don't know if that really applies the same, but like I remember someone did this once. They failed an interview. They cold called the VP of sales and like, gave them a quick pitch on why they, what they felt they did wrong. And like, he ended up getting the job and ended up being like a top performer at our company. Right. So it's like, there are stories of successful kind of ways of doing that. I think it probably, if it like tells the person something about the job or something about your ability to do the job, like it's good. I think as a general rule, I'd probably say avoid it, but that's just my opinion. It's a tough one because I think some people will be like, what the hell? Why is this person calling me? And other people will be like, wow, I love this. This is awesome. So it might be good, I guess, as I speak to, like, if you have some sort of established connection with the person, so it's not a totally cold call disrupting their day, then maybe there might be more of like a leg to stand on there. But yeah, that's a tough question. I think it's person dependent, I suppose.
What about a connection on LinkedIn? Would that be a little more?
I think if you have some sort of warm kind of lead or warm avenue to them, then it's a little more acceptable. I think the days of like just headhunting, like picking up the phone and calling someone at work, like are kind of dying out with like all the technology. So it's like it's kind of the same way. People don't really love having interruptions in their day, but there probably is certain roles or certain types of jobs where it probably still does apply and can say something. I've seen it firsthand happen in sales quite a bit. So. Yeah.
Perfect. And maybe you want to clip a link in our chat just for the jobs that you're recruiting for as well, so people can kind of be aware of your organization and the different roles. I don't know if you want to speak to some of them quickly. I know we have.
Yeah, I'll say quickly, like hiring across the board, tons of roles from sales, support, software engineering, marketing. So we're hiring quite a bit.
Wow, yeah, there's a lot of growth happening there. That's great.
Yeah, I'll ping the link now.
Amazing. So I love to end these things on a super positive note, because I know over the last year, there's been so many ups and downs. People have, been laid off, they've lost their jobs. So maybe each one of you can just give your, most positive, optimistic, best advice that you would give to someone looking for a job right now. So maybe we'll start with you, Jose.
Sure. So I know that sometimes the industry, some industry like the airlines, the tourism is not going so well, but keep in mind that there is movement in the market. There's always movement. So there's always people hiring. There's always people being promoted, people changing jobs. So there's always movement into the labor market. So don't get discouraged. Just do your research, understand where your skills best apply, and then go for that job. If you, just to add to Andrew's point, if you don't want to reach to the hiring manager, perhaps reach out to somebody in the team who can potentially give you some insights and conduct an informational interview. It doesn't have to be always the hiring manager.
Perfect. And how about you, Margarita?
So the trend I'm seeing in the market right now is definitely positive. More jobs are opening up and companies are trying to recover what they've lost. So again, don't lose hope. And with the big movement for diversity and inclusion now, so many more of us have these opportunities that were not open to us before, which is also amazing. And I just suggest being kind of strategic, positive, and knowing what you want, and you will achieve it eventually.
Amazing. And Kadeen?
So for me, actually, can I do a plug too? Because I do have some recruitment.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Jose, if you want to put a link to your information there too, that would be great.
Sure. Yep.
So I'm currently looking for various marketing roles. So I've got a graphic designer, commercial planner, trade marketer, brand manager, and an e-commerce performance manager as well. So those are a couple opportunities. So you can reach out to me directly and be happy to connect. And in terms of something on a positive note, I agree with Margarita. I think the market is at an all-time high and an all-time low all at the same time. Be kind to yourself. and network like crazy. I think people are more available to speak to you now and to share knowledge and insights and connections with you than they've probably ever been. Everyone's got their phones and their devices at, next to them. So to Andrew's point too, maybe not, cold calling, but reach out via LinkedIn, build those relationships and connections, and show up as the subject matter expert in your field. Your brand is what's going to really get you that foot in the door. And that, to me, starts with perception is everything, right? So we only have what we can see, which is digital. And LinkedIn, I think, is the best place to start just building your brand and your presence and letting people know that who you are, what you do, and how you do it. Awesome.
And we'll end with you, Andrew.
Yeah, I think, everyone made some good points. I won't belabor them, but I think, it's like, even if you are in the job market right now looking, and it takes a little longer than it might in like an ultra hot or more normal, non-COVID market, don't get discouraged. Like, things, sometimes waiting an extra couple months to find that job might mean you find that dream job in a few months, right? And I think, like, things happen for a reason, and keep at it. If you aren't working and you are looking, do things that are just going to build your resume more. Take some free courses or for your paid courses, network like Katie and Margarita have said, like, just kind of make sure, even in your times that you're in between things, that you're still, adding value to your resume or adding value for your personal growth and stuff like that. So I think, keep your head up, and things are definitely changing the market. We're seeing it heat up, and that's exciting for all of us. So good luck.
Amazing. Well, I just want to thank you guys for being here. Taking the time to, a lot of people are saying thanks for the advice. So I think a lot of people need this, and the fact that you guys took some time out of your day to be part of this, we're really appreciative. So thank you so much again. I think all of you have put your links to your contact information in the chat, whether it be on the event or the stage chat. There's 2 different chats happening here. And from TorontoJobs.ca, I just want to say thank you guys so much for being here, all of you, the attendees. I hope you took away some great, points for the day. You're going to go feel motivated tomorrow morning when you wake up to make some changes to your resume, to your cover letter. Reach out to people that have, allowed you to contact them through the network. And if you're interested in other events, go to torontojobs.ca/news. So thanks so much for being here, all of you. And I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Awesome. Thanks,
Rachel.
Rachel.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.